Good day, students. Welcome to Rats in Pathology. The topic for today is simple and straight, and yet at the end of it, you shall sum up as to how many subjects and questions it shall touch upon. Osteomyelitis is defined as an inflammation of the bone secondary to infection. Regarding the clinical picture, it is more common in children, and among them, boys are more prone to osteomyelitis than girls, probably due to trauma. The route of spread can be hematogenous or from a contaminated wound. This will be the common clinical picture. Regarding osteomyelitis, there are some subheadings which are important. One shall be the roots of infection. Look at this picture carefully. You find that these are all different nidus of infections that have been shown diagrammatically. The infection can be because of a direct trauma, whenever there is an injury, a road traffic accident, etc. Or it can be from elsewhere and carried via the vasculature and by the nutrient artery to the bone. From the adjacent surface or the tissues, whenever there is an infection or an abscess, there can be an infection to the underlying bone. Fractures, of course, can lead to an infection. So these are the roots of infection. Please do remember them. Again, from a distant site, how do we get an infection to the bone? These are all the various sites which can predispose. One is a periodontal abscess in the oral cavity. Imagine it can end up in an osteomyelitis of the long bones. Cutaneous infection, diabetes. The patients are prone for infections elsewhere, including the bone. Infective endocarditis, we had seen this earlier also. Septicemia, bacteria in the blood. Pyelonephritis, an infection of the kidney. All can lead to an osteomyelitis and vice versa. Regarding the causes of osteomyelitis, it can be divided into specific and non-specific. Non-specific are the usual bacteria that people come across. Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, E. coli, and Pseudomonas in the hospitals. These are all non-specific. Specific in the sense when we get a specific pathological lesion out of it. Under that we have got typhoid, syphilis, and tuberculosis. So the causes for osteomyelitis can be non-specific or specific. Incidentally, in this picture, I am finding a bony trabeculae, and then there is a large, almost an abscess-like lesion, and it is filled with neutrophils. Look at this one. It is a picture of a neutrophil over here having multiple segments. I had enlarged it and shown it, and the same thing is being reciprocated in your microscopic picture. Based upon the duration, the osteomyelitis can be divided into an acute osteomyelitis and a chronic osteomyelitis. Acute means it is of short duration and it will be more severe, and it also responds quite well to antibiotics. There is a nidus of infection or inflammation that is called a nest, and in that there is an accumulation of neutrophils. And soon you find that there is a proliferation of this, and there is a larger lesion called the abscess. An abscess is nothing but a localized formation of pus. And as it enlarges, it causes compression of the blood vessels leading to ischemic necrosis. Ischemic necrosis. And ultimately, there is the formation of a dead bone or sequestrum. So, nidus of infection, neutrophils, abscess formation, sequestrum. And in reaction to that, there will be a new bone formed, and that is called the involucrum. Please remember sequestrum and involucrum. A sinus tract is formed by which the patient will typically complain of discharge of bony chips. Ischemic necrosis, fibrosis, and bony repair. See, this is what we are seeing. There is a piece of bone over here that doesn't have any osteocytes. It is pale, irregular. It is a dead bone called sequestrum. Surrounding that, there is a lot of inflammatory cells. Some of them are neutrophils, some of them are lymphocytes. So there is an inflammatory infiltrate. Still surrounding that is a lot of fibrosis. The body attempts to wall off the inflammation. This is the histological picture in a case of an acute osteomyelitis. Now what exactly happens? Whatever be the source of it, here there is a nutrient artery, there is a vein, and there is a joint surface, and this is the epiphysis of the bone. This is probably the metaphysis. Because of the infection, you find, as I had mentioned earlier, a nest is formed in which an abscess is created. And what happens is, after some time, always it keeps enlarging and it finds out a pathway of least resistance. Finds out a pathway of least resistance. There is an elevation of the bone that we are seeing here, and as in the earlier picture, part of the affected bone becomes necrotic, which is called the sequestrum or the dead bone. And as a reaction to that, there is a formation of new bone, which is called involucrum. Sequestrum, involucrum. And still, just like any other abscess on the body, you find it has to find its way out. There is a sinus tract. The opening is called the cloaca. And there will be a typical discharge of bony chips, which is there. So this will be the evolution. Again, I repeat it. Abscess formation, extension of the abscess, formation of a sequestrum, formation of a sinus tract, discharge of the bony chips. Now, what are the routes of spread of osteomyelitis? Earlier, we saw how an osteomyelitis can occur. Infection can occur from the rest of the body. But in this case, what we are seeing is, how does it spread from here? Look at this one. This is the focus of osteomyelitis, and it can spread into the periarticular space. So there is a subperiosteal abscess. Periosteal space, I'm sorry. So there is a subperiosteal abscess formation. In the joint, you find the capsule is intact at the epiphysis, so the infection is not able to penetrate. But in some places, such as the shoulder joint, it can come below the articular surface, as a result of which the infection can comfortably spread into the joint space, and it produces a septic arthritis. A septic arthritis because it is spreading into the joint space. And there is an infection, it can invade the blood vessels and go elsewhere also. Periosteum we had seen, infection into the joint space, vascular channel within the bone wherein it can spread, distant spread to any other organ. Sometimes it can resolve or get cured. In certain other cases, it remains subacute. Subacute is neither acute nor chronic. It remains indolent, but when the situation is apt, it will become manifest. This is a clinical picture of an osteomyelitis that we had seen. There is a cloaca through which bony chips had been discharged. And if you see also, you can determine that the skin is being fixed to the underlying bone, a classical diagnostic feature of osteomyelitis. When you mobilize it, it does not move. That means it is an osteomyelitis. And also I am seeing that there is a lot of convergence of fibrous tissue. So clinically there will be a history of trauma or an infection from elsewhere, severe pain, fever, and there will be a discharge of bony chips. So please be careful. These features we had seen in some tumors like Ewing sarcoma also. Severe pain and fever will be there. And we summarize what we had seen until now. The transmission can be hematogenous, direct or from the adjacent tissue. There is an acute inflammation, pus formation, subperiosteal abscess, and there can be a sinus tract with discharge. The necrosis of the bone leads to the formation of sequestrum, and the new bone is called the involucrum. Please remember this, it will help you to recollect. This particular picture is fantastic for us to draw. Here there is a healthy bone. A is a healthy bone and B is the periosteum, surrounding tissue. C is the involucrum. Involucrum is the formation of new bone around the dead tissue. E is the sequestrum or the dead bone. And D is the discharging sinus tract. Please remember this. It is a beautiful picture, very easy for you to draw, and it will fetch you marks. As I had mentioned earlier, there is an acute osteomyelitis and the second one is a chronic osteomyelitis. Chronic means it is a low-grade infection. It is of a long duration. The organism also is of low virulence. And sometimes it can happen because of incomplete treatment. The patient takes the treatment for some time and stops. Syphilis, tuberculosis, these are some special causes for chronic osteomyelitis. And what will we see histologically will be lymphocytes, plasma cells. These are all chronic inflammatory cells. And there can be a granuloma also. Whereas an acute osteomyelitis, you will get neutrophils. Brodie's abscess. It is a variant of osteomyelitis. It will happen in the epiphyseal region. There is a lot of fibrosis or sclerosis that is happening, and then it walls off the abscess cavity. When you take an X-ray, it can appear like a tumor. It is a variant of chronic osteomyelitis, and we shall remember. Sometimes what will happen is the entire osteomyelitis can become sclerosed. So I find radio-opaque lines that are over here, and this is called agarase sclerosing osteomyelitis. Remember these words, these can come as MCQs or it can fetch you marks. Tuberculous osteomyelitis, elderly, sometimes in the young patients also with active tuberculosis. Directly it can affect the bone or it can be part of a miliary tuberculosis. Sometimes it is insidious and gradual, but it will be persistent. And look at this picture. This is a necrotizing granuloma. N is the area of necrosis, eosinophilic, acellular. Surrounding that, there are some pale cells. These are the epithelioid cells that I am seeing. And dark blue dots are the lymphocytes. There are a lot of lymphocytes over here. And this is a multinucleated giant cell. Giant cells also I have marked. So this is the classical granuloma, necrotizing granuloma. And look at this chronic osteomyelitis. There is a dead bone inside and there is a reactive and thickened new bone formation called the involucrum. Another example of tuberculosis is the spine. One organ which is a major culprit. Here it is a retrieved specimen in which there has been a collapse of the spine. So I find that there is almost a collapse, and here also there is a fusion of the vertebrae. The port spine is one lesion that we should remember, perceval port, and this can be asked as a question for you in orthopedics. The patient will end up with either kyphosis or scoliosis. There may be a destructive fracture, as well as abscess, an abscess that is formed. I will be showing you a picture of it later. Cold abscess in the sense it does not show the classical signs of inflammation, such as warmth and tenderness. And as mentioned earlier, there will be a caseating granuloma. And regarding the tuberculosis of the spine, it can be right within the bone, called the central tuberculosis, or it can be along the disc, paradiscal or paravertebral. These are the two types of tuberculosis of the spine that we can get. Another lesion that we should remember is syphilis. For the sake of completion, it can be either congenital or acquired, and these are all the various findings in it. It is a rare occurrence. There can be osteoarthritis, and there is a crooked appearance of the bone because of the new bone formation that is perpendicular. Hair on end appearance or a crooked appearance. This will be like sailors who are having their hair closely cut. Sabrotibia, which we had seen earlier also, and perivascular cuffing with lymphocytes and plasma cells. This will be classical of syphilis. In acquired, there can be osteochondritis or periosteitis. These things, please do remember: obliterative endarteritis, perivascular cuffing, and gamma. Gamma is the lesion that is found in syphilis. Sabrotibia, there is a bending of the bone. We have seen this even in Paget's disease. I have given this picture pertinently for the sake of completion because congenital syphilis is a question for you, in which we can have Hutchinson's teeth, or there can be interstitial keratitis in the eye, eighth nerve deafness. These three together form the Hutchinson's triad. There is a saddle nose deformity because of the collapse of the femur of the bone. Frontal bossing can be there, and there can be painless swellings of the joints called Clutton's joints. These are some of the findings of congenital syphilis, which itself is a separate question for you people. And these are the Hutchinson's teeth. No, you find that the incisors, there is a peg that is seen over here. This is one abnormality over the bone, over the tooth. Another abnormality can be the Moon's molars. The molar tooth is also abnormal, and that is called Moon's molars. Capital M-O-O-N apostrophe S. So please remember this. As a summary, you people should recollect the etiology, pathogenesis, causes, what are all the predisposing conditions, the acute and the chronic osteomyelitis, any of the variations, gross and microscopy, what can be the complications. And please see, it is a simple picture that I have retrieved. You find there is a psoas muscle along which there is an abscess formation. It can go into the region, femoral region of the femoral triangle, and it can be felt as a fluctuating mass, as well as abscess. Classical of tuberculosis originating from the port spine. And please remember this: common sense is genius dressed in its working clothes. Emerson, a person whom I like very much, because this is what we miss usually. A granuloma anywhere can help you fill up the pages and get you marks. Mercy.